So, welcome to the hiring room. I have my really good friend Annette Kastner joining me today. Annette, thanks so much for hanging out with me today.
Happy to be here, Renee.
Awesome. Just for the audience, for a point of reference, if you will, Annette and I we go back what, 25 years?
It's been at least 25 years.
A lot.
Maybe 30. We're dating ourselves.
No. Let's just keep it at 25.
25.
Right. So Annette has her own consulting company along with her husband called Kastner Consulting, and she spent, oh my gosh, well, up until a year or two ago, her whole life in the corporate side as a CFO. Most of the time as a CFO, at least recently, the last 10 years as a CFO, or has it been more than that?
4 years as a CFO and then probably 10 as a VP, senior controller before that. And then, my biggest job was at CBRE when I ran the client accounting group, which was about 60 people when I think I was 30 years old when I
You were
started
young
doing
because
that. I
that's
was
when we
very
met.
young to have that
That's when
many
we
people
met.
in my team.
Oh, I know. That's exactly because that's when we met. Yeah, so tell me a little bit. I wanted to chat with you a little bit about this transition of, people dream of doing this, right? Like, I don't know if you get these kinds of I'm used to it because I've been running my own show for what, 30 years, not my own podcast show, my own my own business show. And so I used to have people say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're an entrepreneur. You work for yourself, right?" And I wish I did. So people are always think it's greener on the other side. Now that you made the leap from the corporate side to, so just so people are really clear, she's not just a fractional CFO, she has a team. She's
Yes.
already built a team. So she's not just delivering work solo. She's got a team. She's building a really good book of business. So how has the change affected you personally, professionally? Like, tell me a little bit about the change because you're kind of living some people's dream.
I do. Sometimes I feel like I am living the dream and I feel like I need to pinch myself. And then other times I'm like, oh my God, I like got all these things that I need to do. Like, how am I going to prioritize? Which, kind of puts you back into the days when you were working in a corporate environment and trying to run a super large team. So you have less resources, but you want to deliver a super high level product and make sure that you're meeting all the needs of your clients. But then at the same time, you have this other piece that you never had before, which is the business development piece, which is something new and something really fun for me. But at the same time, you still have to do the work because we've got a team, but it's a small team. So until we continue to grow to the point where I can have a larger team, I'm wearing multiple hats, which is sometimes challenging. And then on top of that, I'm mom of 3 boys, so,
Yeah,
I'm
no
I'm
small feat.
juggling that piece as well. I love the fact that I have what I call work-life integration. I don't think that there's any such thing as work-life balance. I
Well,
think that
not with
that's
you. There's no work-life balance with you,
I don't
so
think that's
'cause
true
I
for
know you.
anybody, but for sure not for me because I've always been, like, trying to be an
A workaholic.
overachiever in some ways.
Yeah,
But work life and I'm also a perfectionist, so sometimes it takes me twice as long to do something as somebody else just because I want it to be a
yeah,
certain way.
yeah. So
But
work-life integration, I like that term.
like for work life integration, like if, my oldest son was playing football for Michigan Tech University and we were
Yep.
able to make every single one of his football games for his fifth year senior as a master's candidate. And that's not something that I would have been able to do if I was still in my corporate world. And so with this role, you can kind of work from anywhere as long as you're servicing your clients and you're meeting their needs, which I love. And now that I have a team, I can direct my team and I've got really, really strong people that can just I'll be like, "Hey, can you take care of this, this, and this?" And they'll get it done, which is awesome too. So it feels good to make money while you're sitting on the sideline of a football stadium.
Well, that's what the dream is, right? Like, a real business is gonna keep running when you're not there. I mean, that's the whole goal of it,
It's
right?
true.
But I
But then
think
at the
about
same time, you never turn off, right? So, Dave and I are partners. And so, I feel like if I really wanted to be egregious, I could write off everything that I do because every single conversation we have revolves somewhat about work.
yeah,
It's either
that's
about the kids or about work. And,
right, I
and
didn't even
so
think about that. Yeah.
So you're constantly like, there's no turn off. So, like, even on the weekends, you're talking about work, you're thinking about work. But I do feel like, my marriage is stronger than ever. My family life is stronger than ever. And a lot of that, my stress level is much lower. For a while, I was having time to work out on a regular basis, which was really nice. I've slowed that down a little bit because we've taken on some new clients, but I want to get back to that.
It's hard.
So there's
Yeah.
definitely some really cool things that are happening.
Well, I think it's interesting because you and we're the same generation essentially. We're kind of workaholics. And I think what's interesting is my husband and I have this argument all the time. So he's got your typical 9 to 5 plant manager, has to go into the plant, doesn't have a lot of freedom like you and I have. The freedom there's a cost to the freedom, right? That's what people don't really understand. There's a
It's
cost to the
true.
freedom, right? So I worked till 10 o'clock last night. I worked till 9 or 10 every single night tonight because I'm trying to get projects done. There's no work life integration or balance. I had to get some initiative done that I had to get done. And what I said to him was, it's a different type of stress. Like if you do your job well enough, you're going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks,
Yep.
right? We have to create our activity. And I think that's that different stress. So when things are on a dip or you're concerned or you lose a client or you have a client that you need to fire, things like that,
Mhm.
that's a real stress because you've got to make it happen, right? So that's that trade-off to freedom that I don't think people understand unless you walked in both shoes. I worked for somebody and just like you, and I've done my own thing. And I say, well,
Right.
I've made my own W-2 for 30 years. That's what I've done. But it can be, there's scary times when this happens. So in accounting and finance, the good news is that whether you're making money or not, they need you. You're a little bit recession proof, which is good. I'm not.
Some
I'm not recession proof.
some ways, but the first thing to go when somebody cuts costs is they're going to cut their consultants, right? Or they're going to ask you to take a cut. So you need to make sure that you're adding value all the time, which is very high stress, and that you can prove the value that you're adding because
That is
otherwise
true.
you're
Yeah.
looked at as expendable. So that's something that you have to be careful of as a consultant because, at the end of the day, as much as you try to integrate with the teams and with the clients that you're working for so that you're part of their organization, like I always like to try to be a partner to my clients, but at the end of the day, when the person that's writing the check always knows that you're a contractor, that you're not actually an employee.
Brings me to another question. So, how does that dynamic change for you to have authority or influence? Do you find
It
that more
makes it
challenging
harder.
than when it's harder?
Much more challenging because again, the people that you're directing that are the people that are supporting you that you're directing to get work done because a lot of times our clients they'll have senior accountants, they'll have staff accountants,
Yeah.
they may even have controllers. And so you're trying to direct those people as the CFO to get work done, but they know that you're a consultant and so they're like, she's not my boss. In some
There's
cases,
some
like you have to work harder to win that respect and to
yeah.
win that piece of them like, yeah, Annette knows what she's doing and I can learn something from her. And so I'm going to be all in with her in order to be able to accomplish this goal for the client. Sometimes when you go in, like you may go into a situation where there's a person who's been running it all by themselves for all these years or with a handful of people all these years. And the client has a new objective where, maybe they want to get audit ready or they're getting pressure from their investors and so they need to be able to have some more reporting and some more KPIs and then you're looked at as a threat when you go in because
Sure.
this person's
Yeah.
thinking like, is she gonna take my job? And I always tell them that's like one of the first things that I tell people is like, my goal is to work myself out of a job with your company because if I can train you up enough and groom you enough so that you can take care of all of this yourself, then I can move on to the next thing, or we can move on to the next project and I can help you even more in another area.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them to see that forest through the trees sometimes, which does make our jobs as consultants much, much more challenging in some cases. In other
Chris Keith,
cases, people will see the value and they'll see that you're
well, they're like,
training
"Oh,
them and that they're,
thank God she's here,"
thank
right? Like,
God
I
she's here. I'm a
hallelujah.
sponge. Tell me everything.
Chris Kiefer, works with you on some things. Him and I were talking about this one day. He had introduced me to a CEO, and I actually did 2 placements this year with the client, which was awesome. Thank you, Chris. one of the things we were talking about, we're not gonna talk about what company it was, of course, but he was like, "Yeah, they don't listen to me. They don't listen to me." And he was frustrated. He's like, "What about that?" Because I was challenging him on some things as I do, and he was like, "Right," like, because I was making sure he was training and onboarding one of the people I placed, and they started to have some problems with this woman, and I was like, "Well, what's happening? Like, I need to know what's happening," and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "They don't tell me anything. I don't know." So I feel like there's some selective information that you get, like, left out of the loop that you normally wouldn't be if you were a full-time CFO for them. Would that be true?
It's true. I mean, there's certain clients where you sit in on their executive team meetings and you're an integral portion of their team. And those clients are the clients that I really love because I feel like I'm adding even more value where I'm helping with strategy, I'm helping with guidance and
Right.
seen as part of the leadership team.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, those that's the dream client, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then there's
yeah.
other clients where you're working with other people that are like really strong. Like one of my clients right now, I'm working with a CFO. So they basically have two CFOs. Like she's a CFO that has been a CFO at like huge
Oh,
organizations,
she's
like
competent.
Fortune
Yeah.
500 CFO, where I've been middle market CFO. I have more real estate. And so it's like they have this person that is great with capital markets, that's great with financing, that's great at like driving the business. And then they
Yeah.
have me there to execute. And so she and I have partnered really well, which has been fun
Oh,
too,
that's
because I feel like I'm
fantastic.
learning from her as well. So
Right.
you get all different things, and then sometimes you get, sometimes you get people who, really value and like hand you the keys to the kingdom and like, hey, run
Yeah.
my business. And then other times you're like, we just want you to do this little square box and don't go outside of the box because, and those are
Yeah.
the ones that are harder to manage
Yeah.
because as a CFO, you're used to trying to go out of the box and make things better, right?
Yeah, that's what you do. One thing about you is, you led a big team really young. You made director super young. You led a big team really young. When you look back, what are like the earliest moments that maybe shaped how you lead teams today? Is there a lesson that you've learned? Something to tell the young leaders because yeah, you had some big head count, which is a different dynamic, right?
Surround yourself with good people. If somebody's not cutting it, they're gonna find something else. Maybe the role is not the best role for them. Do what you can to coach and mentor them, but make sure that you're always surrounding yourself with good people. You gotta coach up or coach out. Because if you waste your time with people that don't have the right mindset, and even like with hiring, when I hire people, my biggest thing with hiring them is they've got to have the right attitude. It's got to be somebody that wants to do the work, that has a positive attitude, that's driven. And if they don't know exactly how to do the work, I can teach them how to do the work as long as they're trainable. But if they don't have that right attitude and they don't have that positive attitude and that drive, then they're typically not the right person for the job. And I was
Mhm.
lucky. I had my friend Kevin Adam, who's been, I call him my work husband, who was with me. He was with me when I made that transition into the big role. And he's kind of my alter ego, right? So, like, I would give him something. I'd be like, hey, Kevin, can you review this for me? Because I've got X, Y, and Z. And he'd be like, sure. And then he'd give it back to me. And I'd be like, you didn't even look at this. He'd be like, yeah, I did. Everything ticks and ties. You're good. And I'm like, yeah,
What
but
was
this
it?
is spelled wrong or whatever. He and I were laughing because like I'm like so detail oriented and he's
Yeah.
so big picture oriented that he
Mm.
pressed me to focus on big picture more. And then I would press him to focus on the details a little bit more. And so we made this like amazing yin and yang. And I'm not a morning person. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a
Oh,
morning
we know
person. I think
that.
I howl at the moon.
So he's a
So
morning guy? So he held down the
he's
fort
a
in the
morning
morning?
guy. So Kevin would be rolling into CBRE at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the
Oh
morning.
my
And he and
gosh.
I would be crossing in the hallways. And then I had this other woman, Pam Higdon, who was on my team, who was like a senior controller. And same thing. She was a morning person. Like she was up exercising at 4 in the morning and she'd be in the office by 5. And she and I, like, I felt like they had the best team then because they had 24/7 coverage. And we
Yeah.
really like, we streamlined things. We as we had attrition, we were able to like absorb things and learn how to strategize to move things around and gain those efficiencies. And we went from 90 people down to 60 people in a matter of a
Wow.
year. We didn't let, I think we maybe let 2 or 3 people go out of all of that. It was just like,
Okay.
as people decided to move on or whatever,
You
or
reallocated
as
the work.
we would reallocate the work or people would move into different departments and we would figure it out. And we did have some people that were probably a little bit overloaded. We ran a
Yeah.
very lean. I mean, I've always run like really lean teams, but I've always built like good rapport with my teams. I still keep
Well,
it
yeah, I
like
mean, you're known in the Chicago market. I mean, everyone in real estate knows who Annette Kastner is. It's some usually if I have a conversation, they know who Annette is. And you've kept your people close to you. But I also think that, you give back to them when they need a reference or someone's hiring. You're really good about networking and helping them out. And so, you're paying it forward with them, not just when you need something. And I think that like makes all the difference, right? Because it's a small
for sure.
town. It's a small
It's
real
a
estate
small
town,
town, real
Chicago.
estate's a
I
small
mean, it's
world,
not
it's like
small,
1
but
to
it is
2
small.
it's 1 to 2 degrees of separation, and
It
I
is.
mean, it's been such an honor and joy for me to see
Yeah.
people that worked on my team, like, I think of people like, Kim Higgins or Latrice
Yeah.
McKissick,
Yeah.
Anita Bialeski, Maria Mesa, like, all of those people that were on
Yeah.
my team that are or Margaret Alakpala, they've all gone on, like Margaret's CFO for a Newport
Really?
Capital Partner. I mean, they've gone on to take on some really, really
That's
big
awesome. Yeah.
roles. And I love it that I had the opportunity to work with them and that I've had the opportunity to like really see them grow in
Yeah.
their careers and that they'll still call me and say, "Hey, hey, I have this, what do you think I should do with this?" Or like occasionally they'll call me and like, "Hey, I haven't had this come up before. Like, how would you book this?" Or, you know,
That's so funny.
but I mean, it's fun though because it's
Yeah.
a great way to stay in touch and that
Yeah.
mentorship kind of goes both ways too because now sometimes I'll call them like,
Right?
like Latrice is like really really grounded and she's like giving me some really good personal advice too
Yeah.
with parenting and
Yeah.
relationships and,
Yeah.
don't take any shit kind of stuff too. So, and some of that's what I need, right? Because I don't have really good boundaries. That's probably
Well,
one of
no,
my
and that's really
challenges is
nice.
I'm a
You know
people
how to
pleaser and I don't
select-delegate.
have good boundaries.
Yeah, I know. I know, you're working on it, it's okay. Yeah, so it's good, like, we help each other. So let me ask you this, so, what's one leadership philosophy that you learned over your last 20 years that you really embrace? Is there anything that stands out for you?
I mean, I would say treat other people as you want to be treated. And if you want people to stay and be part of your team, you need to be giving them something, right? They need to be learning, they need to be growing, they need to feel supported. Like, I'm not going to give anybody something to do that I wouldn't pick up and do myself. And no job is too big, no job is too small if you have the right people. And
Were you
so,
big on laying out now you've been in like you said, you've been in some small and you've been in some mid-market companies. It's hard in a smaller company, right, to show a career route because you may not be able to do it with title, but I guess you could do it with scope. But were you real big on sitting with people? Like what was your philosophy for retention and to show them a path? What did you do?
I mean, there's a standard review process that you go through. Like sometimes I feel like that's garbage.
Yeah.
If somebody's not performing, then you sit down with them right away. Like if there's something that you have an issue with, you need to have that conversation immediately. Maybe you wait 24 hours to like think about it and do kind of that executive pause and think about how you're going to
Yeah.
direct that difficult conversation to
Yeah.
try to coach someone up. The support thing, like I said, you want to make sure that they feel like they're learning and growing. So even if there's not like I have several people that I was able to keep on my team for years, even though there wasn't a huge growth path because they were loyal to me, they were loyal to the company because they felt like they were still learning and growing. And I kept swapping out their portfolios to give them something a little bit more challenging or have them lead up something different that they hadn't led before so that they had another thing to put on their resume. And I think that that's one of the things that helps retain people, right? If somebody's doing the same thing over and over again, they're going to be bored and then they're going to be like, "Ah, I
Some
don't want to
people
do
like
this
it. I
anymore."
mean, there are
I mean, some
steady
people
eddies
do
that
like
like
it.
it.
You have to know your audience too. I mean,
Right, but for
I had this gentleman that worked with me at NAI Hiffman, Don. He is phenomenal. He's like the hardest working guy that I've ever worked with, although Chris is coming pretty close.
Chris is a
And
maniac.
if you asked Don to do something, he would like have it done super quick. I felt like he worked like he was just he could get things done so fast. He was so efficient and so effective with what he did, but he loved what he did. He didn't like he wasn't like a big change person. If you gave him
Yeah.
something and he needed to pivot, he would figure out
You
how
need
to
those
do
kind of
it.
people, you know? You need those
Right,
kind of
but he
people.
was just like he was a powerhouse. Like anything you
Yeah,
gave him, but he liked what he liked and he just like and he knew his stuff, right?
yeah,
So you gotta know your audience, and then if you have
yeah.
somebody else, who is like, I've had some young people who were just like superstars where you gotta keep giving them that extra
Yeah,
carrot so that they keep moving up the food chain because
otherwise you're not
otherwise you're
gonna
gonna
get it.
lose them. And I feel like with this generation, you see more and more of that, right? Because the current
Have you been
generation,
seeing
they
it?
wanna move and they wanna move quickly.
Right. You in some of the clients that you've been in, have you seen I you know what? I don't remember what generation we're in. What is the 20 to 25? Like what are those? What letter is that?
I mean,
I
is
think
it
Alpha
Y?
is
Is
a
it
really young
Z?
one. Yeah, me neither. I don't know
I
either.
think
I
we're
know my
X,
boys
right?
well, wait, my boys are millennials. So your boys
Okay.
are not millennials. Patrick's not a millennial, is he? Or is he in
No, he's in I call it the instant gratification generation
the IG? Not the OG, but the IG. That's so
because
funny.
they
Yeah,
grew up with their iPhones and they grew up
I
with the
know.
internet and anything that they wanted to know, they could find out very quickly. And so they don't have as much patience as like people in our generation. And so Patrick works for us too. And so sometimes I have to remind him, like, he'll be like, "Oh, I don't have time to do that today." And I'll be like, "No, you have to like work your schedule. Like, if you want to make money and you want to work, you
Yeah.
got to work your
Like,
schedule around like
what
when
do you
I have
mean?
time to help you." Right.
Yeah, you're like, "What do you mean?" Is he studying accounting?
He has his master's in accounting. He actually just had his last class this week.
I did not know that.
So
Shut up.
yeah,
I did not know that. Are you
he
guys
starts
gonna
at
bring him
Baker.
into are you bringing
He's
are you bringing him into Kastner or is he gonna go somewhere else?
Well, he's been working for us for a little over a year now, but he starts his real job at
Okay,
Baker
so you're
Tilly.
not gonna take him into the company, you're gonna put him to the field for a while, like,
He's
he's
gonna
going to
go into
Baker?
the field for a while. I want him to be able
That's
to make
smart.
his own way, right?
Yeah,
He'll still
yeah,
probably help us, as we need help,
yeah.
but,
Well, he may
he's
take
going
it
to work
over
for
at some
Baker
point.
Tilly. He's going in the real estate group, so he's kind of
Oh,
following in mom and dad's footsteps because, I mean,
yeah,
I never did public. I was always on the private side, but Dave
yeah,
did public accounting for a really long time.
yeah, a
And
long
I think
time.
that it gives you a great foundation. He'll get his CPA while he's there. I love it
I
that
didn't
he's in the real
know
estate
that.
group. He's
He may
working for
take
a
it
good.
over at some point, you know?
Well, that's the goal, right? The goal is
That would
like
be
we're
nice.
building something that we can potentially leave to our
That's
kids
awesome.
or, have a
Yeah,
legacy of some sort.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this. So, I'm not going to reveal any secrets because I know some of your secrets. But, you and I called you one day and said if I launched this group, would you help me? And so you're my main OG on this, right? So, we have a group called Wise in Chicago. We are going a little we're going to do a little bit online, but what are some of the challenges you've had as a woman in leadership? Because I know you've had some. And how have you seen it evolve over the last 30 years? Like maybe something in, 1995 versus 2025.
I mean,
What have you seen? Okay, this is like so multi-level. So I'm gonna ask you the first question. Have you seen change with how women are being perceived and treated over the years? That's my first question.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I feel like when we first started out, the pay scale difference was much greater, right? So,
Yeah.
as when I started out as a staff accountant, I think I started, I mean, the kids these days are starting
Mine
in
was
like,
26,000.
yeah, mine was 26 too.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
know guys that came out
Which would
and
be about 55 or 60 now. I
uh,
looked at the numbers. I
yeah,
think it's about double.
probably.
Yeah.
But I know guys that were in my class that started out like, if I'm starting at 26, they're
Really?
starting at 32.
Wow.
It was a much, much wider gap at that point. The other thing that I've, all through my career, like I've seen where, guys will show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and they're done at 4 or 5 o'clock, and then they're kind of out the door and show up. And that's not all guys, because I mean, I've already referenced
Sure.
two of my most amazing guys, Don and Chris, who
Right.
are like 24/7 guys, and my friend Kevin was a 24/7 guy.
Yeah. I get it. But
So
you're
it's not
kind of
just
making a
it's not just women, but I feel like
just a
we always
generalization.
had to work harder to be able to be recognized and to be able to move to then that next role. Like even when I was at CBRE, I feel like at first I got passed over for that director role and they brought somebody in because they thought I was too
Mm,
green. And I think some of it was because I mean, I don't know that it was because I was a woman, but I feel like that's part of
right.
why they thought I was so green. And
Mm,
then that person was only there for a little over a year, and then I ended up taking the role and running
got
with
it.
it.
Okay.
Um,
Do
and
you
so
think that
so
it
that
was do you think that it was back in the day? Let's go back to 95. Do you think it was subconscious from the male standpoint? Because you and I both have 3 sons, right? Having an all-male household is a very different dynamic, right?
yes.
It's competitive, it can be aggressive, and so you learn I don't know if you've done this, but I used to sit back some now my guys are all gone, right? Well, they're still here in life, thank God, but they're not with me. They don't live with me most of the time, and now sometimes I sit back and I look at them, and they maneuver and operate in the world very differently than I do as a woman, you know?
Yes.
They're much more in the moment. They're not as preoccupied with acceptance. Guys, kind of like Patrick, one of my guys, Garrett, like super like physically strong and big. And so he also moves through the world in a different confidence level because of his strength. You know what I'm saying? Not that they
Yep.
can't get taken. I don't mean that way, right? But I watch them and Garrett will say, and maybe I shouldn't say this publicly, but I'm going to say it anyway. But he's kind of like, I'm a white guy that kind of the world's kind of my oyster. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, educated, comes from, doesn't come from money, comes from some resources, and we're not rich.
Good family,
Comes from
yeah.
some resources, good looking, a Big Ten college, like, and kind of have like their bucket starting out is pretty good.
Yeah,
And so I see them travel through this world very differently than I did
for
as a
sure.
woman.
For sure.
I see
I
it.
mean, I
Do you
was
see
always,
it
like,
with your
super
boys?
conservative. I was raised by some very strong women. My grandmother was the first female postmaster in the state of Illinois,
No
and
way, that is
probably
so
number
cool.
5 in the US.
I was not raised by a strong woman. I was raised by a strong
And
man,
and
not
my
a strong
dad
woman.
passed away when I was 9, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
so my mom was a single mom, and she ran when my dad passed away, he had a construction business, so they did excavation and they did
Oh,
cement.
wow.
And I mean, this was back in the early 80s. Uh, and
And
she was
did she
the
take it
only
over?
woman in the state of Illinois that was in the cement business and was trying to
Well,
run a cement business. She did it for
she could
2
get some
years,
good
which I commend her
she could
for.
get some good contracts with that. I don't know if they did it back then, but a
Back
woman-owned
then,
business
Back
Contract
then,
the
no,
construction's
that
where
there
you
was
need to
none of
be.
that. Like, there was no, like, woman-owned
Mm.
contract kind of thing. It was like, "What the hell are you doing here? You're a woman. This is a man's business," kind of thing.
God, and it is
And so
still a
she
man's business. That would have been
It
rough in the
is.
'80s. Holy cow.
And she fought that fight for 2 years, and then she decided that she was just gonna do a lot of odd jobs so that she could be closer to home and be there
Okay.
to support my brother and I. And so then we struggled financially, and so probably one of the biggest things that shaped my career is I never wanted to struggle, I never wanted my kids to struggle. So no matter how
Right.
hard
Yeah,
I
it's
had
not
to
fun being
work,
broke.
like yeah.
It's not. Being
So
broke is not fun. So that really shaped your work ethic to be successful young, and you are. You've been super successful financially, you and Dave. And your boys don't want for anything because I know
they don't, they
they don't
don't.
want for anything.
But
Not with
but my
you. It's
boys are also, like, really hard workers, right? Like,
that's
they've
awesome.
seen that work ethic from me and from Dave. Dave's a very hard worker
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
And so, when I look at my kids,
Yeah.
like Matthew, who's my middle son, Matthew had 3 jobs when he was in high school. Like, he was a junior and senior in
Wow.
high school. He's working 3 jobs. The kid was always at work and always making money, and because they want nice things, and I'm like, "Well, if you want those nice things, I'm not paying for it, you need to pay for it." And then
Right.
even then, sometimes I would, like, scold them, like, the first time Patrick came home, like, the biggest fight I've ever had with Patrick, he came home with Birkenstocks, right? And I was like, "You paid $150 for a pair of sandals, what the hell is wrong with you?"
From my
He's like, "I used my own money. Why are you yelling at me for
yeah.
something that I used my own money for?" And it was like, "Oh my god, don't ever tell your grandmother that you paid $150 for"
She's
and he
like,
bought
"I
them at
fed the whole
Nordstrom's too,
family for a year on $150." Not a whole year.
right?
Well, look, because, I don't know if you know this about me, but my grandmother lived with me. We moved in with my grandmother on my mom's side when I was 2 years old. So my grandmother lived with me until she died. So when I left home and she got bedridden, I went back home to take care of her because we were there's everything, right? Like the sun rose and set on me. She thought I couldn't do anything wrong. I was the baby too. And so I took care of her till the day she died. But she was from the Depression. I mean, she was born in 1910. And so
Yep.
you lived with this whole thing of, if I'm not even kidding you, a tablespoon of corn left over, it was saved. And I go through my refrigerator now and I threw out like freaking 80% of the Thanksgiving meal. And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is terrible." I stopped going to the grocery store too much because we don't have the people in the house anymore. And the produce doesn't last. The
Right,
stuff just spoils so quickly. It's like, what time we get this, I don't know, this stuff, this like last 2 days in the refrigerator, it's just a different mindset. We've never known that kind of struggle.
right.
And I hope we never do. You doesn't leave people when you do that. There was this really interesting thing. Oh my gosh. I was on Instagram randomly and there was a girl, a beautiful young North Korean girl that defected and she got out. And she tells stories of how she's here now and she's done really well. I think she got a social media following. So she's like, does really well financially. And she's like, she's like, we're starving. People are starving. They're starving. So they throw nothing out. There's nothing that goes in the garbage. They'll take
Mhm.
a string and put it in the soup and boil it. I mean, they'll do anything because they don't have any food. And so she was like appalled at the waste that we have in America. And she's
It's
like,
true. My cousins from Sweden came here and said the same thing, like, they were just amazingly appalled by the waste that we have. And,
oh my
to this day,
gosh.
my mom is somewhat of a hoarder. I shouldn't say that, but I mean, she saves everything, like, and everything has a purpose, right? So, and I
Yeah.
have a little bit of that in me too. I've had my best friend has been over here helping me because she's no, you need to get rid of that.
They
Because
need to
I grew up
purge.
with that mindset too. Where
Yeah.
like if she's gonna get rid of it, it's got to go to somebody that she knows will use it and will take care of it.
Right.
Otherwise, it
Oh, yeah.
stays and collects dust in her house.
Yeah. We grew up with, like, shoe boxes, the stuff was in shoe boxes, and then buttons, and you save the buttons, and you say wrapping paper. I have never seen a woman unwrap a gift like my grandmother. She could unwrap a gift, like, I
Oh,
would
my
say she
brother
would
uses scissors and saves the paper still because he grew
she
up in
would
my mom's household.
yeah,
My
she
cousins
would,
used
like
to always make fun of us because my mom would collect all the wrapping paper after Christmas and she'd
Oh,
fold it all
yeah.
up.
It was all
And then the
reused
next
then.
year we would end up with that same wrapping paper.
Yeah.
And so
Well, now we
when
have
when
bags,
my
which is a
kids
good
started
thing.
opening gifts, we'd be like, make sure you rip it really good so grandma can't take it home.
But she would, like, put it on a table, and she would almost iron it with her hands, like, it would be perfect and folded, and you had to put it away, and of course, we didn't wanna get into how clean she was, but, I mean, it's just anyway, I don't know how we're getting on waste and food, but it's just kids, abundance. Alright, this is all back to how much you made as a white as a man in the in '95. That's how we get down this rabbit hole. So, you
Yes.
saw the inequity there. Do you see the inequity now
I still
as
see
much?
the inequity in certain situations. Like I've been in situations where I've had somebody come at me and stand above me and put their finger in my face that was a male because he felt like he could. And
Like
so when I
like he
called him
used his
on it,
physical presence?
physical presence stood above, I was
Yep.
sitting down, stood
That's
above me,
that's
put his
happened to
finger in my
me
face and
before.
said, "You will." And I'm like, I didn't get to this role by not knowing how to run a team or how to manage a team. And so I had to take a day to like pause and like regroup. And I knew when I get emotional, I shouldn't even say when I get emotional. Like if I get really mad, sometimes I cry, you know,
Yeah,
or if like something doesn't go my way, my voice will crack.
yeah.
And I knew
How
that when
old
I
was
had
this
that
man?
conversation with
How old was
him,
this guy?
that
What
probably
generation was
maybe
he?
5 years older than me, not like not
Okay, so
that
he
much
was a
older than me, maybe 5, 10 years
yeah.
older.
So he was maybe a boomer, though? Maybe a boomer? Probably.
Probably on the maybe on the tail end, like probably
Yeah,
62, 63.
yeah, so on the tail end, kind of. Okay.
And so I knew when I had that I needed to have the conversation because
Yeah,
back in the day, I probably would have just let myself be treated that way and would have walked away. But as you evolve, you're like, no,
fuck
I'm not
that.
going to be
I'm
treated
not
that
putting
way.
up with
Like
that
I'm an
shit.
executive here.
Yeah,
I've earned
yeah.
my bones, whatever.
Let me
And
ask you this,
so I
were
did
you
go in.
alone? Wait, stop for a second. Were you alone with him when this happened, or was someone in the room?
No, there was another male in the room,
What did that
which
guy do? What did that guy do?
he just sat there. He just sat there. And
Was he uncomfortable? Did he have any body language?
no, I think that he was pleased with it, which made
So
it even worse.
you were kinda ganged up on a little bit.
For sure.
Okay,
For sure.
that really
So
sucks. Okay.
so I went so the next day I went into his office and said, I didn't get to this role, and really had like the tough conversation, which is something that I probably would have never done. Like my younger self would have never done that.
Mm.
And it led to some additional things, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. But I got to say my piece, and
How did he
it
take
felt
it?
good to say. He was like, I mean, I like came out of the gate. I was like, I didn't get to this way, and you are not going to treat me that way.
You came in hot. You
I
did
came in
not
pretty hot.
then.
I did not use the calm technique. I did somewhat. I mean, but I did come in like my first point out of my mouth was, "You may see some waterworks when we have this conversation, but it's not because I'm an emotional woman. It's because I'm mad, and women cry when they're mad."
So take that and shove it, fucking
So
asshole.
he was kind of like, "Well, no, that wasn't my intention," and like did like the whole backpedal thing. But no, it was his
Okay.
intention.
Yeah.
But it was okay, like, everything turned out okay, but, like, that still happens in the workplace. I mean, there've been
Yeah.
other situations where, guys have been like, "Oh, we're gonna have a meeting at this all-male country club, would you
Do they
you
still
don't
have
need to come.
those?
You don't need to come." They do still have those. My son likes working at those, my middle son. He said there's less drama.
Well, it could be true.
So anyhow, I was just like, stuff like that still happens. Like those are
Yeah.
recent things. So there are
Yeah.
still battles that women fight. And I still do think that women have to work harder, because if it would have been a man that would have walked in there and come in hot like that, they would have been shaking hands or fist pumping by the
Oh,
end or
yeah. I
whatever.
mean, I had
For
2 male partners. I've had 3 male partners in my career. but I had 2 male partners at the same time, and I could see how, oh my gosh, the dynamics were so different with me, even with my people, than they were with him. Like, the 2 male partners with male employees, the dynamic was completely different than my relationship with the male employee. I had to outperform, outwit, outpace to get their respect. They're like, "She's better than me. Renee's better than me at this." And so I have to, like, begrudgingly have to respect her, right? So I got the respect by how I performed, where he got the respect because he was a bro and
Right.
he was the alpha male, right? He was the man, he was the managing partner. And I was just like, well, this, I saw, and it's not like they did it on purpose so much. I felt like, and I look at it, it was a very deep subconscious way they interacted. I don't think they were sitting there like plotting at all.
Right.
But if you separate yourself and you look at it, there's something there. I mean, there's definitely something there. It happened to me in a consulting engagement. After I had left Marco and I had a 2-year non-compete, I was consulting with, this manufacturing company, and I needed just like he wanted me to come in and teach leadership teams how to, like, have conversations, how to communicate better. I reorganized some people. I fired some people that needed to go, that kind of stuff. So I wasn't well liked sometimes, but one of the guys that I ended up firing, was there for a really long time, like 30 years. And he was super intimidating. And he did the same thing that you talked about to the HR girl. And she was like 4'10" and he's like 6 foot. And he stood over and he leaned into her and
Yeah.
got in her face about something. And she came to me and she was just like, "I'm afraid to go to my car. I feel intimidated." And I'm like, oh my God. So then when I would have conversations with him, I had a conversation with him. It wasn't even about that topic. This was escalated later, but the leadership team was there. And one of the VPs was an older guy, older Italian guy who like really liked me. And this guy, he was the tech guy of the company. He did not like what I was saying. And he got up and there was 4 other men in the room. I was the only woman. He got up and his voice started to escalate. He started to scream at me. And then he did the lean in. He physically tried to dominate me. And I was like, you need to sit down. Yeah, I said, "You really need to sit down. Are you done? Because you really need to sit down." Well, and the old Italian guy got pissed. He was half the size. He gets up and he was like, "You'll never speak to her like that. You are out of line. You get your ass back in that
I
seat."
love
And
it.
that's the only, and he hesitated. The guy still hesitated. And then I had rank over him, right? Like in the company, he had rank, way rank. He was VP of the whole company. And the guy finally sat down. But I sat and I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. And even though the VP saved me, I was like, you're not my dad. Part of it was part of it, his intentions were good, but it kind of disempowered me that I couldn't take care of it myself, right? You know what I mean?
Well, and I feel like
Do you know
what
what I mean?
happened, like, part of why yeah, and part of why I was so mad is that, the other gentleman that was in the room, he and I were working through some things, and I felt like by that happening and by this gentleman acting in that way toward me, that it took away
Yeah,
every piece of power that I had with the other gentleman too, which made it even worse. It wasn't only that he tried to intimidate me and then he just like walked away like I was nothing. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I've given 4 years of my heart and soul to this place, and that's how you're gonna
yeah,
treat me?
yeah.
And then
I mean, I didn't have
the
that
other
dynamic
guy was
because
just sat there and didn't
yeah,
say anything, but at the same time, like, that took every piece of power that I had with the other guy, even though my title was, like, higher than his. I mean, he ran one of the big groups, so it just
yeah.
was like bad all around.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I've had a lot of different moments like that. So I've had them myself. I mean, my father was really intimidating. He was Sicilian, so he was super intimidating. So I don't intimidate very easy at all with men. And then, of course, raising them, I don't at all. But even as a young girl, I
Right.
never was because my dad was so intimidating. He was so fearless that he'd make grown men cry. I mean, so he was a paratrooper in the Korean War, got shot up, was left for dead, spent a year in a German hospital. He was born on the streets in Chicago. He was a Golden Gloves boxer, and he got drafted by the Cubs, which he ended up my grandfather said, "Get a real job," right? It was the '50s. So he was super intimidating, right? So I kind of and the other thing too though, as a young girl, when he was alive, I had him in my back pocket, right? You know what I mean? Like, if anyone give me hassle, I just call my dad and he'd be like, "Where is he?" Like, we'll go take care of this. So I also was a little spicy because I kinda had this kinda tough guy, like, in my back pocket. So
I
I
love
always
it.
had a little bit of chip on my shoulder, but when he passed away, he was pretty young when he passed away. I didn't have that any longer. But I still have, like you, I have 3 grown men that are my little army. So I still have I still have some physical protection if I needed it, you know? But yeah,
I
so
had
I
to
mean,
laugh. We were out at a club when I was up at Patrick's recently, and so I surprised him and showed up at the club with one of the other moms, right? So
oh,
she and I were
fun.
the only moms there. We're, like, dancing on the stage, and one of the young men that he's friends with came up behind me and started dancing, and he's like, "What are
He
you
was
doing?
not
That's my
happy.
mom."
I have a story when my son Ken is a really big guy, and when he was at University of Iowa, my other son, who's they're twins, right? So my other son comes, and I think a bunch of their friends, and we all kind of met for their birthday, and they're like, "Hey, let's take mom to this club," and my son Ken's like, "We're not taking her there. We're not going there." And I'm like, "Oh my God, come on." So we go to this club. He stood there like a bodyguard. And some guy and some kid bumps into me, just, whatever. He bumps into me and he almost got in a fist fight with the kid. He's like, "You just bumped my mother." And the kid's like, "Oh, you mean to?" What do you mean didn't mean to? And I was just like, okay, everyone needs to calm down. So I mean, it's kind of nice, I guess, in some ways you have someone to protect you. But yeah, so anyway, it's weird because part of me is I got this. It's okay. No, I can't
Right?
fist fight my way out of the door, but I can talk my way out usually. So anyway, it's just interesting. So we've seen some, we haven't seen. I will tell you one thing that I have seen in the position that I'm in. I have seen Black women, not so much in a managerial level, but at a staff level below. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
there I've seen huge disparities between men and women. I remember this one conversation I had with this young gal. She was probably 7 years at Kraft as an analyst, senior analyst, and we were recruiting for an analyst, and I talked to somebody else on her team who was a man, who was a Black man, young black guy, and, he was making $15,000 more than her, and he had less experience.
Wow.
She was making 75,000 when the market was paying about 95 to 100 on this role. And so when I asked her what she was looking at for in a role, she was like, "Oh, I don't know, like 75." And I was like, "What?" I go, "Okay, we're gonna have a conversation, and this is a conversation we're gonna have." And I said, "If anybody asks you how much money you want, you tell them 9,000, you hold there." She's like, "Really? I'm afraid." I'm like, "You're so underpaid, it's ridiculous." And
Mhm.
so you see it. I'm sorry, you
I've
see it.
seen that too.
You
I've
see it.
seen
Now
that
again,
too.
at the managerial level, not so much because they see it, right? They can't really get away with it. But my friend Becky, and she probably doesn't mind if I say this because I won't say the company, they were doing an exit and it was an all male leadership team and she was the only female on the team. She's the only one that didn't get a bonus. Everyone got a bonus, but she didn't get a bonus. They all got bonuses.
Which is ridiculous, and she knows
And
that
so,
they
I
all
mean,
got
she
bonuses because
she
she was
ended
the
up
CFO.
she ended up fighting. I mean, she'll fight for it. She fought for it, but we had to get attorneys involved and this whole thing. And it was just like, I don't understand. So you think you've made, and then don't get me wrong. Then you've got scenarios where she's totally taken care of, like isn't equal. So it
Right.
just depends on the people that are involved in the situation. But like, I'm always surprised and she'll call me. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is 2022, whatever year it was, or 2020. I don't remember what year it was. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe you have to go like fight for this when it's clear there's a problem here.
Yep.
Yeah. So you see
I mean,
these things. I mean, I think it's
it's still out
better,
there, it still happens.
but it's still
I
out
I
there and
don't
it
know that
still
it's
happens.
better,
Yeah.
I think it's just hidden. I think it's still hidden more.
Really?
I think that there's still, and I think it depends on the industry too. I think
Right.
that there's certain industries that, like, I would say, like, when I worked for Lincoln Property Company, which is now Willowbridge, that's a very female leadership oriented
Mm,
company, although most of the partners at that point were men, but a
yeah.
lot of, like, there was a lot of female influence there. And so I don't think that I ever felt that there.
Yeah.
But
That's good.
real estate is still very male centric, right? And that's kind of been my niche my entire career.
That's true too.
So
It is very male dominated.
in the middle management, you'll see a lot more females. But when you
Yeah.
get up to, like, owners and shareholders and partners, there's very few women that are in those ranks. It's very similar to, like, a construction industry or,
Yeah.
I think I've heard that it's very similar to that in, like, in the insurance industry in some
Insurance
cases. I
is
mean,
like that too? I never knew that insurance was like that.
in some cases, banking, I think, used to be somewhat like that, although I think banking is definitely changed over the last, like, I've definitely seen, like, some of my friends that are in the industry that have, like, broken that glass ceiling, and I feel like I was able to kinda break that glass ceiling somewhat too
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
achieved the role of CFO.
Right. Yeah. I'm hopeful though.
So
I mean, I see and you're not there yet, but I see the dynamics of the relationships with my son with their, one's married with his wife and then the other one is will be getting married. But my oldest son who's, she's an attorney as well. So they're both attorneys. So she's,
yes.
you're not going to boss her around. But that generation of women really holds those guys accountable. I mean, she holds him super accountable to doing the work that I took on all myself. I mean,
Right.
he puts and let me tell you something about my son. I love him to death. If she didn't do that, he wouldn't do what he does. He wouldn't. He would try to get away with it. So meaning since the day my grandson was born, Nick has to that's Nick's job to put him to sleep every night. That's what he does. And he's super involved with my grandson. I think he would never be as involved as he is without my daughter-in-law saying, "Hey, you need to do this," or I'm going to hold you accountable to doing this. These are our chores, and this is what you need to do, and this is what I need to do. I mean, I really commend her for doing that because I didn't do that. I mean, the other night, I wasn't feeling good for like a day or two, and the dishes were piling up. And I don't like my house messy, especially my kitchen. Like everything's set where it needs to be. And my husband was really, oh, you don't feel, but I mean, he's really nice about like, you don't feel good. Well, can I do anything for you? Let me get some air in your tire. Let me do this. I'm like, why don't you do the dishes? He's like, no, no, I think those could wait for you. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Never cleans the toilet, never vacuums, never does it, like nothing, right? Like it's like it's been divided as these are my female chores and these are my male chores. And it's probably a reflection of our generation. But now I see the girls holding them a lot more accountable. And I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. And you know what? It's making my son a better father because she is holding him.
That's awesome. I'm super lucky when it comes to that because
Dave's good about that.
Dave did a lot more of, like, the Mr. Mom.
Mm,
You should never say this, but he did a lot more of, like, the Mr. Mom stuff. Like, I was always working, and
yeah.
so he did a lot of, like, the running the kids. He's the
I
one
mean,
that
Brian
does.
did too, because I was downtown and he was 5 minutes away. So he was the one that fed
Yeah.
them at night. He was
Yep.
the one that picked him up and did all that stuff. No, from that perspective, yes. But if
And,
I'm
like, he does all
around,
the laundry, he does all the dishes.
okay.
I mean, my very first job when I was 15 years old with a work permit, I was a dishwasher at a local restaurant.
That's hard.
They didn't have, like, the automated dish machine,
You
and
gotta do
so
it by
on a
hand.
Friday night, I was washing, like, 500 plates by hand, plus all of the pans, and, it's a
Ugh.
small town, so there weren't a lot of people there, but I, to this day, hate doing the dishes. Like,
You're like, "I'm not doing it."
I'm like, if I cook, then Dave does the dishes. If Dave cooks, Dave does the dishes because I hate doing the dishes. I do dishes for, like, holidays and stuff like that,
Right.
but,
Begrudgingly?
and I rarely cook. Like, I cook on holidays and, like, Dave does most of, like, the day-to-day meals or we eat out a lot, which is probably not great for us.
Right.
But and then on the flip side, Dave hates doing, like, handiwork, and I kind of enjoy doing
That's
handiwork.
funny. You guys have a role
So,
reversal. My husband's
we
super
have
handy.
some
He
of
can
that
do
role
anything.
reversal, and he worked a landscaping crew his first 2 years while he was putting himself into through college, and then he was a
Okay.
mall cop.
Hilarious.
He was like
Oh
Paul
my
Blart.
god, that is so funny. Dave the mall cop.
Fun fact, Dave was Paul Blart.
Next time I see him.
So,
Cute.
he because he worked that landscaping crew for 2 summers, he hates working in the lawn, like, he will not
He
he
hated
like,
it.
occasionally, he'll mow the lawn, but, like, mowing the lawn, like, doing the
I'm
planting,
just
doing the
saying yard
edging, like,
service.
all that stuff,
Yeah.
that's my job.
Yeah.
And like if something needs to be fixed or if something needs to be put together, then that's my job.
That's great. That's not
Because
me.
when
I
he
can't
was a
hang a
kid, he
picture.
was the hold this guy. So, like, whenever his dad was, like, putting something together or, like, needed something, like, Dave was the
Yeah.
hold this guy. And so
Okay. Okay.
so
All right.
if I'm like, "Can you help me with this? Can you hold this?" And he's like, "I'm not the hold this guy,
Wait. Sorry.
but I need to hold this guy."
You either gotta be the hold it guy or the do it guy. Which one do you want here? Oh
But
my
I'll
god, that's
never
funny.
complain because I don't have to do any fucking dishes.
You're good
You
to
can edit
go.
that F word out.
That's okay. I don't wanna edit it out. This is raw footage. Well, you're awesome. I've kept you here for almost an hour. But is there any last parting wisdom that you would like to impart on this world as a very accomplished CFO?
I mean, have a good mentor, surround yourself with really good people. Like I said, I hire for attitude and I can teach the ability
Yeah.
because if you get really good people that are driven and hardworking, they're going to figure out how to do the job if they want to do the job.
Yeah.
I mean, mentor and lead and give back as much as you can. I mean, that's one of the things that is like super important to me is I'm involved in a lot of organizations. I'm on the board of kids2.org, which is a
Right.
child safety organization. I'm on the advisory board for CFO Leadership Council, which gives me a lot of continuing education and a
Yeah.
lot of mentorship from
Other
amazing peers.
CFOs. Yeah.
I just started doing a group called Female Strong, which I think is gonna be it's gonna be amazing. We've only done one event since I joined so far,
Mm.
but it's a young women's mentorship group. They take
Okay.
young women from Chicago that want to be entrepreneurs, and it's kind of a Shark
Yeah.
Tank type of thing where they have a mentor that helps coach them, they pitch their idea, they do their elevator speech,
Oh, how
so
fun.
I'm excited about that. And then
Yeah.
obviously we're doing the WISE thing, which I'm super excited about because I think it gives us a really great group of bonded women that we
Yeah.
can bounce things off from each
Yeah.
other and really learn and grow together and focus
Like I
on
say,
some mental health challenges too. I mean,
yeah.
people think about
Yeah.
mental health and they say it's a stigma. It shouldn't be a stigma. Like
No.
you need tools to
No.
be able to be
Yeah.
successful.
Life's
And
hard.
there's a lot of tools that I have that I wish that I have now that I wish I would have had when I was 26 years old or,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I think you don't prioritize networking, and I just think you evolve differently with age, or I mean, you should mature as you age, but I think that if the sooner the women would get involved, I think that they would just benefit so much greater through their career and their life if they got involved sooner. And so, and we see
Mm,
that with the WISE group. We see a lot more older women involved than the younger women. So we have to go in a recruiting
mhm.
effort to figure out what young women want. So it'll be an interesting thing. Awesome. Well, thank you, my
And
friend. I
stay in
really
touch with those
appreciate it.
people that are important to you too. I mean, stay in touch with those
Yeah.
people who are important to you too, because you never know, like so many of our clients that we've gotten since we started doing this business have been people that we've done business with in the past or
Yeah.
Chris worked for me when I was at CBRE and I hadn't talked to him
Yep.
for 20 years and now he's like
Yeah.
one of the key people on my team.
Yep.
People that are important to you, make sure that you reach out, make sure you follow up and that you stay in touch because everybody is 2 degrees of separation that can
Yeah.
help you
For
succeed
sure.
and help you move into that. And try to be in the right place at the right time. I mean, I feel like part of my career growth has been being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me on the hiring room. I really appreciate it. I know you've got a ton of things you need to be doing. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your friendship.
I appreciate your friendship too and everything. I mean, Renee's probably one of the best recruiters I've ever worked with. She's like one of those people that, you know, she gets to know you and she knows what you like and then doesn't present like there's some people that just keep throwing stuff at the wall until it sticks and she's one of those people that I've always worked with that she knows me, she knows what I'm looking
Well,
for
don't
and she's
worry.
like, "Oh, this person will be the perfect fit for you."
You're going to do a separate testimonial. So wait on that one. Hey, thanks for joining us on another episode of The Hiring Room. Hope you enjoyed my friend Annette Kastner and all the wise wisdom that she gave us. If you like what you hear, please subscribe below and share this podcast with others. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me in the hiring room. If you like the podcast, please subscribe below and share this episode with someone you think that would benefit from it. We're always looking for good people to interview. So if you have a referral, comment below, or you can email me at renee@mseedinc.com. Thanks till next time.